Good morning. Welcome to all of you who've joined us today. My name is Sister Mary Lechtenberg. I'm a member of the Pastoral Care Team here at Mount St. Francis Center. We welcome all of you who have gathered here in the Clare Chapel, for those watching on the in-house system, as well as Sister Josephine's family and friends who are joining us through live stream. We have gathered to remember and to honor her life. Josephine Schmitz was proud of her Luxembourg ancestry. Her ancestors came to the U.S. in the early 1900s from Europe. A nephew who loved to tease his Aunt Jo referred to her as a stubborn Luxembourger. Being independent and confident, she traveled from Sioux City to Mount St. Francis in 1940 on the train alone to enter the Sisters of St. Francis. Along with Sister Carol Hoverman, Josephine imitated St. Francis and Clare by giving witness in the St. Mary's neighborhood for 50 years, where there are many arrests, many robberies, and where some shots are fired. They remained committed to this neighborhood as it grew more poor, more diverse and rough. However, making friends, supporting the neighbors who in turn protected them. While in the White Street neighborhood, Jo enjoyed sharing her love of cats, birds, butterflies, small garden produce, and her salsa and peanut brittle. We are proud to say she was our sister. Our introductory hymn today is found, it's number 461. 461. Come to me. We will sing verses 1 and 3. Number 461.
I am Sister Janet Haderkamp. A reading from Psalm 23, adapted by Nan Merrill. O my beloved, you are my shepherd, I shall not want. You bring me to green pastures for rest, and lead me beside still waters, renewing my spirit. You restore my soul. You lead me in the path of goodness to follow love's way. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow and of death, I am not afraid, for you are ever with me. Your rod and your staff, they guide me. They give me strength and comfort. You prepare a table before me in the presence of all my fears. You bless me with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the heart of the beloved forever. Amen.
At this time, memories of Josephine will be shared. Some have been sent to us and will be read. And we invite those who are present, if you have a memory, to raise your hand. The microphone will be brought to you and it will be held for you. Please do not grab it. Okay, thank you.
I'm Sister Anne Marie. This is from Mary Pat Cole, a friend. I will never forget our visits with Sister Jo and Carol in the apartment on White Street. Jim Hoverman and I always enjoyed seeing the fruit of her gardening labors, all those cherry tomatoes, and enjoying the peanut brittle at Christmas time. She was family to Carol, Jim, and to me. I will miss her dearly. In the summertime, I would come to Dubuque, and they had an apartment on 3rd floor where I could stay. And Josephine was a very, very good cook. And many times when I would leave, she would give me 1 or 2 pints of salsa that she made. And I know that she was she was always very hospitable.
Allison Whalen, Sister Jo's great niece. The earliest memories I have Sister Jo, as we called her, is when she came to visit when I was a small child. She and I found a caterpillar on a tree. I'm not sure how excited I would have been about a caterpillar ordinarily, but Sister Jo had an inquisitive way about her that made you want to learn alongside her. Sometime later, I learned that Sister Jo had taken that caterpillar home to Iowa with her. She must have nurtured it through its life cycle because she gave me the most beautiful preserved moth, carefully preserved in a beautiful little environment in a plastic terrarium. Sister Jo not only gifted me with curiosity the day we discovered the moth, but the confidence and pride I carried with me, moth in hand, to show and tell days at school. I always remember her generous spirit.
This is from Sister Susan Coleman, or from Susan Coleman, Schmitz, a great niece and goddaughter of Sister Josephine. My memory of Sister Josephine was when I was a child. She would never miss a birthday by sending a special birthday card with a loving message from wherever she was. This meant a lot to me as a child and showed me how a person can take the time from far away and show love without receiving anything in return. She left us with precious, loving memories and actions that will forever stay within the heart.
I'm Sister Angie, and I lived with Josephine at St. Mary's, and she was employed with the senior meal program after she retired. And that was at Alberna in the dining room. And I was employed by the same senior meal program at Ecumenical Tower, and I was a cook down there. So we always had something in common. Thank you.
I'm Sister Rita Green, and I lived with Sister Josephine at St. Mary's somewhere between 68 and 80. When I went there, there were 18 sisters in the convent, but by the time Josephine came, I think we were down to about 10. Josephine was a fourth grade teacher in school and lived up in Old Jackson Street School in the southeast corner. That's where her fourth grade classroom was. She was a wonderful teacher. She had to go up and down those steps. If you know St. Mary's, she was on the 3rd floor, and we'd go to Mass. She'd go up before Mass. She'd go over to Mass. She'd take the children over to lunch in Jackson Street School, and then she'd come back. She'd have to bring them down for dismissal, and not one time did I ever hear her complain about going up and down those steps. In the convent, she lived on 3rd floor. Her bedroom was on 3rd floor also, but it was in the northwest corner. And in her bedroom, she had 2 cages, and the cages had parakeets in them. My room was right next to her, so I used to hear them. When they moved over to the apartment on White Street School, she took the birds with her, the parakeets, and I remember they were over there in the dining room. But the place over in the apartment that she loved the best, I think, was the arbor. That was a kind of an enclosed place next to the garage, which they didn't use at all. And she fed the squirrels and the birds, and she raised flowers there. I think she and Carol would go out and buy the flowers, and a couple of years I helped her plant them for there, and also in the planters on the front porch of their apartment. People going down White Street used to comment on how beautiful they were. She used to love to sit on the swing. There was a hanging swing in the arbor, and she and Carol, or sometimes she and the cat. And she used to talk about neighbors coming by and visiting as she was there, bringing her cookies sometimes. I think she and Carol were a wonderful presence down in that neighborhood.
A memory from Jim Fitzgibbons, a nephew. My sister-in-law and I drove to Dubuque for Sister's 75th Jubilee. We kept it a surprise, and so we sat in the pew behind her. I touched her shoulder and said to her, "Lady, what time is church?" He said, "Jim, how did you get here?" We spent the whole weekend with Sister Joe and Sister Carol and had a wonderful time going all over Dubuque.
This is from Alice Rowling, who is Sister Carol, a first cousin to Sister Carol Hoverman. My memory of Sister Josephine is, as a family, we were always happy when Sister Carol would bring Sister Josephine along to the family gatherings. We felt she was family. My most recent memory is Sister Josephine had a smile so big It could not be taken away for anything when she got to see my great-granddaughter, Josephine, cruising. Even a picture would bring a smile to her face. May she rest in peace.
I'm Sister Maureen, and recently Sister Mary Leck brought me a letter from Sister Josephine. They didn't know when she wrote it, but inside it said, "I just want to let everyone know how grateful I am for the wonderful care that I've been receiving."
I'm Marcine Kellner, and I had the privilege of being a recipient of Josephine's work over at Alverno. I happened to be the director of the food program there at that time, and she came over and was just a wonderful hostess with all the seniors who were there. She seemed to love it, and if I happened not to be there on time, she collected the tickets for the meal. She was a great lady to have around.
I have a memory from Candace Kalupka, a former student and a current Franciscan associate. In 1980, Sister Josephine was my 4th grade teacher. It was also the year that my parents divorced. Needless to say, it was a difficult year, and I would often struggle in class. Sister Josephine would take me to an empty classroom and just let me pour my heart out and cry. She was so kind and supportive and encouraged me to pray. One day, she took me out of the class and gave me a statue and a necklace of the Sacred Heart. She said it was from a friend who is praying for me and my family. It meant so much to me. I shared this memory with her during one of our visits, but she had no recollection of it. It's often the case where our little acts of kindness don't seem significant to us, but we can never measure the impact it has on someone else. It has been 40 years, and I still have the necklace. I stayed in contact with Sister Josephine over the years, going to her apartment that she shared with Sister Carol, and then a few times when she went to Clare House. She is one of the few people who still call me Candy, my childhood nickname. She nurtured my faith and my prayer life. I'm so grateful for having had her in my life.
This is from Carol Hoverman's niece, who happens to be called Carol Ann Hoverman. She says, when my dad would bring me and my brothers to Dubuque, we would see Sister Joe along with my aunt, Sister Carol. She made great peanut brittle, and I'm amazed at how Sister Joe froze fresh strawberries when they were in season.
These thoughts are from Sister Mary Claire O'Toole. My admiration for Sister Josephine happened at a time when she was accused of harming a Dubuque student at St. Mary's Grade School. The accusation was reported in detail by the local paper. Sister Josephine responded calmly and trusted in God's protection. Eventually, after a thorough investigation, the charge against her was acquitted for lack of evidence. Josephine never responded in anger to the accuser or to others. Her ministry at St. Mary's Parish continued until she came to live at Clare House. For many years after that, we like to exchange Jackie Lawson e-cards on feast days and birthdays.
These are memories from Pam Meinert, who is a cousin of Carol Hooverman. My memory is making Christmas cookies with Sister Jo and remembering all our laughs and smiles that we had the Christmas before COVID hit. It breaks my heart that we have not been able to hug her and visit. An old memory for me is when the holidays came around and we visited with Sister Carol. We always got treated by Sister Jo with her famous peanut brittle, and it was so delicious. I remember Sister Jo showing off my granddaughter, baby Josephine, at Sister Carol's funeral dinner. Sister Jo had a permanent smile on her face, and so did baby Josephine. Sister Jo gifted baby Josephine with a Winnie the Pooh bear, and she loves it. This is a special gift.
Marge Burkle. Sister Josephine and Carol were my prayer partners for about 5 years, and they invited me to their home, their apartment, several times for a meal. But I remember especially in winter time, Josephine would say, now if you have any extra candle stubs, would you bring those along, please? So we would go in the chapel and get all the extra candles that were burned down quite far. And she would take those outside and put them in a plastic or in an aluminum pie tin. And then on top of that would be another pie tin with water, and she would heat that water so the birds would have something to drink during the winter time. And we would sit there and watch the birds come and drink from that. And she would love all of our old candles, and the arbor, it was just one of her great blessings and joys. So our candles were part of her life.
I'm Sister Joan Brinks on the pastoral care team, and I have some remembrances from the nephew Ray Troyer. The first memory that comes to mind of Sister Josephine, my aunt, was back in the early 60s when my mother, Mary, Sister Jo's younger sister, took us, my younger brother and sister, to Dubuque to visit one summer. I believe this was before Sister Jo was allowed to travel to visit family. Sister Jo was teaching at Sacred Heart at the time. I was of the age when the next fall I was to be taught the new math. I believe that Sister Jo, then known as Sister Philip, had just learned the new math so that she would be able to teach it in the fall. She took me to the school building and into her classroom and taught me about the new ways to solve multiplication and division problems. That next fall, I was at the head of the class when it came to the new math. In more recent years, and after my parents had passed, my wife and I made trips to Dubuque to visit Sister Jo and her roommate, Sister Carol. We had many fine visits with the two of them. If the weather was cooperating, Sister Jo would take us out back to her arbor, where she would sit as often as she could to listen to the birds and tend to her potted plants. Our two children were always delighted to hear that Sister Jo was coming to Minnesota for a visit. She was a natural teacher and shared her love of nature with them. On one of those visits, Sister spotted a caterpillar. She and the kids collected it and put it into a jar with holes in the lid and some foliage to eat.
The kids brought it to school to share with their classmates and sent a picture to Sister Jo when it emerged from its cocoon. She had a natural curiosity about the wonders of the world around her that was contagious. She found both blessings and joy in small things. In July of 2015, Sister Carol and Sister Jo drove up to Cannon Falls, Minnesota, for my daughter's wedding, which was probably the last long drive Sister Jo took. After the birth of our second granddaughter in 2018, Sister Jo wanted me to send her pictures of both her great nieces, which she told me she proudly showed to all her friends at Mount St. Francis. I am sure that my siblings and I are in the minority because we could say that we had an aunt who was a nun. But I can also say that my life has been positively influenced, both spiritually and personally, because of my relationship with my aunt.
Many of you know Sister Chloe loved to be outside. She lived with us when Sister Josephine was at St. Mary's with us. We had 3 teachers who were Boy Scout leaders, and they arranged that we sisters could go out to Camp Klaus for a couple weekends. And it was gorgeous out there. Going down Highway 3, the trees were all in color. We got out there, the teachers went with us the first time to show us around. We were in one of the big cabins out there. And we explored all over, and finally they left, and we finally got ready for bed. We had our sleeping bags and put them on the cots. Finally we got settled down and thought we were going to go to sleep. But all of a sudden there was clunk, clunk, clunk. We were scared to death. It was way out by Colesburg, nobody else around, and we thought, who is out there and what's he going to do? Well, it kept on and kept on, and finally most of us went to sleep. Next morning we got up. We went outside to see what was going on, and there was a walnut tree which was dropping its walnuts on our roof, and that's all it was.
As some of you were speaking about the neighborhood, I was recalling that, how the school, that old school, it has been renovated into apartments. And when they had the dedication and the open house, Jo was able to go up to 3rd floor to her old classroom and to see how it was going to house people in need. I'm just so touched by that she was able to have that experience. Thank you for all that you shared, and I'm sure this will not be the last word. It will not be the last memory of her, because I know for me, as you shared it, it sparked something else in my memory bank. We continue our prayer. Compassionate God, we come before you today as we remember our beloved sister, Josephine. We stand in awe of life, which leads to death, which leads to life with you. Thank you for the many years Jo spent living a Franciscan way of life. Since she believed in your steadfast love, do carry her onward and forward, allowing her to dwell in your tent, in your presence for the rest of time. We ask this with trust in you and in your Spirit, now and forever. Amen. Thank you. We conclude our prayer with the same hymn, number 461, Come to Me. As we conclude, we'll sing verse 5. Number 461.